Welcome to the Full Tactical Range by Range Systems. I'm Beau lead instructor for defensive mindset training. Shooting and moving is one of the most widely talked about topics in all of firearms use. And so for this week, let's take a look at 3 different shooting and moving techniques. At DMT, we really teach our students 3 movement techniques. The first one is called move then shoot. The second one is shooting on the move. And the last one is cover fire movement. The move then shoot is where you want to go from point 1 to point 2 as quickly as possible and decelerate and shoot. There's really 3 phases to this movement. There's first the acceleration phase, the top end, and then there's the deceleration. Your physical fitness really determines how effective those 3 phases will be. And so if you're not working out with your quads, your hamstrings, your gastrocnemius, your glute max and minimus, your adductors, your hip flexors, your core, really having those effectively developed is going to make all of that movement really, really hard and not nearly as effective. The second element is to recognize that as you come into the deceleration phase, there's a body wobble. And so we have to try and get to the point where we get used to the body wobble and find just the spot where I can go and break the shot at that fuzzy area where I'm just coming to deceleration versus I'm dead stopped and now I'm a target and I can start to be shot back at more effectively. The way that we can practice this is 2 ways. One is to do it in a linear straight forward and straight back. The other one is to practice it going from side to side. The straight forward and straight back is pretty simple. You set up a target, you go 15 or 20 feet behind that target, there's your shooting spot, and then go from there another 15 or 20 or 40 feet all the way back as far as you can. And on go or shot timer, you're gonna run up to the shooting point, decelerate to a stop, break your shot. Again, you're looking for A zone, center of mass, or center of face. And you're gonna find what that body wobble looks like to you. You're also gonna wanna figure out if you're doing it from a concealed carry position. At what point do you pull the handgun? Because there's pluses and minuses everywhere that you pull it. If you pull it right away during the acceleration phase, well, you have it at any point, that's useful, but then you don't accelerate as fast. If you try to pull it during the top end, right? You got all the way to top speed as fast as you could, but you can't maintain top speed because now you're digging out that firearm. If you try to pull it while you're going to deceleration phase, you had your top end speed, you had your acceleration phase, but now you're trying to do it during a really complex skill of deceleration, which now makes that deceleration less effective. So you need to play with this as to what's effective for your situation and body type. The next type of movement is shooting on the move. The idea with this is that I'm actually going to break accurate shots while my body is in motion. The gigantic problem here, of course, is that every time your heel strikes the ground, there's a big vibration that runs up through your spine. And that'll affect what's happening with your arms and your sight picture. Also, if you have any shooting errors, say crushing or flinching, all of those are now going to be exacerbated because of that extra wobble that's running up through the body. The trick to this is learning how actually to fire your shot in the middle of a step. So while that other foot hasn't struck the ground yet, so during the float portion of the walk before that foot makes contact with the ground. This is a really funky thing. It's a really hard for people to get used to initially. That's why running this dry with your SIRT pistol, and again, why in all that is tactical, do not have a SIRT pistol, is really, really valuable. So to practice this initially, we do it 2 ways. One is a linear straightforward, and the other way is to start to develop a turret movement, because the other part that's valuable with that shooting on the move is the fact that my upper body does not have to stay rigidly connected to what's happening with the lower body. So just like a tank, I have the tread run one way and the barrel and muzzle pointing off a different way to engage my target. So the first way that we'll start, again, is a linear target. We'll set that same thing up that we had for the linear move then shoot drill. And we'll start back at 30 or 40 feet, start to walk towards my second shot position. And as I'm walking forward, I want to learn to be able to break the shot in between the steps during the float phase of your stride. Being that I was a Tomb Sentinel, we had the float down just mastered because of what we did, you know, walking at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And so this I found pretty easy for me. Some people really find this super, super challenging. And again, all those trigger issues will really exacerbate if you are having those problems and you try to now put this on there. So make sure that you get those worked out before you start trying to run to this stuff. The turret element of it is, again, I can move and shift my upper body irrespective of what my lower body happens to be doing. And so practicing these drills moving off in different directions is also super valuable. Being that we're in the full tactical range by range systems, I get to set up a little course, something like you're seeing, and I can now work linear, turn the turret one way, turn the turret and the feet in opposite direction, and be able to get targets moving in multiple ways, all maintaining motion the entire time. The last movement type is the cover fire movement. This is by far the most applicable to the defender. The idea here is that we've been presented with lethal threat. We want to make sure that we get ourselves off the X or the unified point of attack and be able to start returning effective fire downrange. Now, being that we're talking defensive application, we're not looking for the same type of target accuracy that a competitor might be looking for with, you know, a little business card type thing around through the eyes and stuff like that. You know, center of face, which is collarbones to the hairline, is plenty effective. Anything inside of about a half of an 8x11 sheet of paper center mass is going to be really effective, because again, that's where all the big organs are. That's where spinal cord is. And you got to think about that too. That 8.5x11 sheet of paper size is a cylinder. That's not a just a linear thing that flattens out as you move. You got to think of it like a cylinder. And so as you move, you actually can visualize that 8.5x11 at whatever angle you happen to be looking at your target. The way that we play with that here inside of the full tactical range is I can actually use the sidewalls as sort of the continuation of the body. And we need to practice this, making sure that we're going both to the primary side and to the support side. The reason being is it's more challenging for me to move and flank towards my support side because of the way my body twists out. It's not as effectively comfortable to go that way. It's much easier to move towards my primary side. But if we think about somebody pulling a firearm on and engaging us, almost all trigger errors that happen for righties move toward the palm side and usually down on the primary hand. And so if the target was presented to me this way, the way that I want to move is towards that way, because he's most likely not going to screw up a shot that comes this way. He will more likely screw up a shot that comes off that way. Lots of movement has to be done for us moving towards our support side so that we're effective against everybody that pulls out the most likely hand. Most people are right-handed, just the way the world is. But we also still want to be able to move towards the left hand. So the left hand, we would go the opposite direction, which of course is easier for us. With this one, the way that we typically would set up is we'll do like magazines of 6. And we'll set up at different varying ranges. Remember, all this stuff is range applicable as well. So if we're in retention range, we can do it, whether it's high or deep. But we'll set up at full presentation range at 15 to 20 feet. And on the go, I'm going to deploy the handgun and start to engage my flanking as fast as possible. And my goal with my two targets, the one that's straight towards me and the one that's linear to me, is to be able to get all 6 shots between the two targets, all in that nice center mass or center of face area as fast as I possibly can, getting to at least a full 90 degrees to the target. You may not be able to do this because you may have only a linear range. To be able to work this in a linear range space, what you would do is set up your target and you would create what you would consider like a half moon kind of shape that still allows you to go 90 degrees. But all of your shots now are going from 45 all the way around through to 45 the opposite direction. That's a really simple way to be able to do this cover fire movement while having only a linear range available to you. Work these 3 drills. Remember, always start this stuff dry. That's the best way to get started. If you don't have a SIRT pistol, make sure you use the promo code you can see at the bottom of the screen and go get yourself a SIRT pistol, because they are really the best training tool out there to be able to get all these reps done. You can do it right in the comfort of your own home and really save yourself a lot of time and money from having to go to the range, not only the travel, but the range fees and the ammo itself. You can really get a lot of training running that SIRT inside of your space. Again, we use the SIRTs in classes every single day. And then when you go to do this at your range, start nice and slow, really take your time, and really make sure that you're monitoring good muzzle and trigger finger awareness so that we put the rounds where we want to, when we want them to be there. For Defensive Mindset Training, I'm Beau. Thanks for watching.